Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the New England Racing Show, Manchester, New Hampshire, Channel 23. We're also on YouTube, and like us on Facebook, you'll get the show automatically. Well, today I'd like to talk about the state of short track racing and racing in general. The past week or so, I've seen some bloggers that have their own websites, and they were criticizing Bowman Gray Stadium. One from Connecticut a week or two ago said that that's not racing and there's no place in racing for it. And another one I read a couple of nights ago said that NASCAR should distance themselves from Bowman Gray. I guess their main beef is that there's a lot of extracurricular activities that go on down there, such as car drivers getting pissed at each other and having a demolition derby on the infield with modifieds and late models, which I find it baffling that you work on your car all week and then you go out and you totally destroy it trying to ram other people. But Bowman Gray packs them in, 5, 10, 15, 20,000 people. It's I guess it's more like a football stadium with a track built in the middle, and there's seats all around, and you see this. The place is just packed. What do they go for? Is it the racing, which at Bowman Gray, a flat fifth of a mile or whatever it is, it's really small, seems to be a lot of follow the leader, and the only way to pass anybody is to dump them, or nudge under them and move them up. And people don't want to be moved up, obviously, because they know that's the only way to get around people. But that's how they used to do it at Bristol before they reconfigured the banking and everything there. And once they did that, they found out that people could run side by side, and the racing became boring, and Bristol was half full. People like to see the bump and run. But if things get out of hand, where a couple of late models were just going at each other in the infield, smashing into each other, to the point where the police had to drag one of them out of there or escort them out, that's not racing. Well, my friend went up to Beech Ridge this past Saturday night, which would have been July 5th, and they had a pass race up there, Pro Stock Tour, and he said the place was packed. He called me up to go up there, but it's a couple hours, and I didn't feel like going up by myself because my son was at Star helping his friend. But he said that I think it was a 150 lap Pro Stock race, hardly any yellows, no crashing, but people wanted to see racing. So it leads you to wonder, what do people want to see? How do you put people in the stands at your racetrack? You look at Bowman Gray, and when I was reading that blogger the other night, there were a few people that race at Bowman Gray were making comments saying that the fighting and the smashing is just a very small part of what goes on there, that a lot of the racing is actually pretty good. But I guess some of the fans want to see that. And if you watch NASCAR, and they have ads for NASCAR, and what do they show? The fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison from 1979. That's always in there. They show cars flipping over. They show drivers throwing helmets at each other. So NASCAR seems to promote this because they know that it works. I mean, we all see wrestling on TV. I used to follow it back in the 70s when it was fun. Now it's kind of old now, but I guess that's what people like, the villains and the good guys. And I guess you can go and watch good racing, but it sure helps at a short track where you have weekly divisions to have a villain like a real villain, like at Star years ago. There was a guy named Moe Tweety, which all the old timers remember. He passed away in the last couple of years. And Moe would race a late model, which they're now pro stocks, and then a street stock. And he had this a doll's head on the roof of his car or sticking out the side window, mostly on the roof. And he had it wired so it lit up. And Moe would go around and he would shove people out of the way, and they'd shove back, and he'd win a race, or he'd finish right up there, and everybody'd be PO'd at Moe. And he'd get out of his car on the start-finish line in victory lane, and he'd motion to the crowd, you know. They'd boo the hell out of him, and he'd, come on, boo, boo. And he loved it. And Bobby Weber Sr., he had bought the track a few years earlier, and he knew the draw that Moe was. And word has it he'd go over to Moe afterwards and flip him a few bucks for putting on such a good show. But Moe was a genuine villain. It was not an act. He was really some people would call him a jerk, but he was one of a kind, and I think we need more Moe Tweetys now, as they've all become pretty vanilla and bland and boring, a lot of these drivers, in NASCAR anyway, especially. I mean, you got the Tony Stewarts that still show their short track temper, which we really appreciate, except when he directed it at the King. I didn't appreciate that too much, because the King made a pretty truthful statement about Danica, and Tony took exception to that. But, you know, that's the way it goes. But we sure miss Moe Tweety. I'd sure like to see some of that in, maybe not in a super modified, but or a midget, but in some of the fender divisions where you can shove each other around, and we see some of that. But I'd like to see some of the drivers become a villain and enjoy it. You know, I think the sponsors might like that too, that they have someone that's pretty controversial. So I'm not sure what the secret of success is. At Beech Ridge, it's a clean facility, a nice track. We raced there with our midget, and someone blew an engine in the third and fourth corners. On the last lap, 6 or 7 cars went spinning off the third corner. Fortunately, there were no concrete walls. Everyone just spun into the dirt. Everyone restarted. No one got bent up. At a track like, I won't name a track, but ones that have concrete walls all the way around, you'd have 6 or 7 wrecked cars. And there's no need for that. We don't need to have concrete walls all the way around. You don't need to be destroying a car if you make a mistake or somebody else does. Well, that's another area of track safety that I could go on and on about. But Beech Ridge is a nice, clean facility. The pits are clean. They have good food, clean restrooms. They've got it all, and they pack them in. And they put on good racing. Another track that does it right is my favorite track in the world, Bear Ridge up in Vermont. It's a dirt quarter mile, kind of flat. But you go there, and it's like everybody in town is there. My kid says, well, they got nothing else to do, but I don't buy that. There's always plenty to do. But when you go to Bear Ridge, you have 20 coupes, 20 sportsmen, 20 midgets. SCONE shows up, 20 of those. Late models a little bit light, maybe 10 or 12. And the road runners. And you have all these different divisions that look different. And 20 cars in each division. I mean, and they're going around the track 2 and 3 wide. It's just a pleasure to go there and watch. I suspect that they have so many cars because it's a pleasure for the drivers to go there and race. And you don't have track officials with an attitude that come over and, you know, kick you out of the track if you don't park where you're supposed to park or whatever. promoters that do that are just cutting their own throats. When you start telling competitors to get the hell out of your track or whatever. But anyway, Moe Tweety, I just keep coming back to Moe because he was such a character. I'd like to see some more villains. Of course, you got to have the good guys to go along with the villains, and the villains tangle up with everybody, and they put on a good show, and they have a competitive car, and I think that brings people. I don't think the demolition derby that you see at Bowman Gray on YouTube does anything for racing. And I see where these bloggers are coming from, that's not racing. But they also have to look at what Bowman Gray offers besides that. And it's just a nice facility. They have nice cars racing there. And, I mean, it's in the middle of NASCAR country, but they're modifieds. I mean, this is modified country up here. And you look at the success of the show up at Beach Ridge, the Pass Tour, some of the open modified shows. I guess the small SBM race at Star was one of the best races that people have seen from what I heard. I was up at Bear Ridge that night, but I'm sorry I missed the SBM race. The third leg of that is going to be July 23rd down at SCONE, along with the NEMA Midgets and NEMA Lights. So that'll be a pretty awesome show on a Wednesday night. And I believe that's $10,000 to win for the modifieds. So that should pack them in. SCONE's another track where every time we've been there, there's a really good crowd. The seats are all the way around the track. And you talk to people, and that's where they go every Saturday night, is SCONE. They put on good racing. Nice pits, nice pit area. Clean facility, good concessions, good restrooms, and I think it's the whole package. And promoting too, promoting on Facebook, promoting on websites, radio, TV, the whole package, and of course word of mouth. I just watching a regular product. Some company had a product, and they said that you can advertise all you want, but each customer that's not satisfied is like a little ticking time bomb out there, ready to badmouth you as soon as your name is mentioned. So, everything goes together, and if you have word of mouth between the drivers and the fans, that's a nice place to go. The show moves along real quick. I mean, you hear about all these shows that are dragged out for 4 hours. I used to go to Star in the 70s and early 80s before Bobby Weber Sr. bought it. And there was a promoter named Russ Conway who was part of the ownership there, the promotion. And during intermission, Russ would go down on the track, and he'd talk about all the upcoming events. And he was also a reporter, the beat writer for the Boston Bruins, for the Lawrence Eagle Tribune, and he'd bring like 5 or 6 Boston Bruins up to do a celebrity race. So he knew how to promote. And Russ, if you're watching this, come back. We need more Russ Conways, because now you go to the tracks and you sit there they have a 20-minute intermission, and you're wondering what the hell is going on, and someone could be down on the track talking up the track, doing all kinds of stuff. You could have one of the divisions could be out there, maybe have one division a week go out there and park on the main straightaway, let all the kids come down, the families, and sit in the cars and get their autograph. That seems to work really good at all these tracks that we've been to. One of the big hits at Lee Speedway is when all the kids get to ride in the cars. I mean, that takes like an hour, but it was certainly worth it. I mean, because they drew a really good crowd that night. So you got to get more interaction between the fans and the drivers rather than just parading out cars and, you don't know who the drivers are or anything. I know we're not, we're not Jeff Gordon and all these other guys, but there are a lot of local heroes out there, good drivers, and that's what the show was started for, was to show that. And we just hate to see a show go on at a local track with 200 people in the stands. It doesn't need to be that way. It also doesn't need to be a demo derby out there. It's the whole package, and the promoters need to know that. They need to put on, if they're going to give you a racetrack to race at, it's got to be relatively safe. I mean, you don't want concrete walls all the way around, so if you make a mistake, it's $5,000 to fix your car. You look at Oswego, they have the foam blocks in the two corners. That can be done here. You don't need to have a concrete wall. You could have a runoff like Beach Ridge does. And that's one of the reasons we like racing there is if you make a mistake or somebody else does and you spin out, you're not going to wreck your car and your kid's not going to get hurt. So, that's pretty important. But anyway, I'll get off the soapbox now. We're going to show you a video from Bear Ridge this past Saturday night, one of the SCONE cars. And I want to give credit for providing a video to Dylan Cook, who puts in-car cameras in some of the SCONE cars up at Bear Ridge or Legion Speedway, wherever SCONE races, and he posts them on YouTube and nice enough to let us use this video taken from Chris Donnelly's car. It's the heat and the feature from this past Saturday night up at Bear Ridge. And I mean, I could show in-car cameras from asphalt, but that gets kind of boring after a while. But this is fascinating to see the in-car camera of a dirt sprint car. And, you hear them all out there. It sounds like the engines are going constantly, but when you hear the in-car camera, you'd be surprised at how little he's on the throttle and how much they're just skating around out there and how much car control they have to not be plowing into each other. So let's get going with the video. And here we are, the heat race during the day. He started 10th. This is probably an 8 or 10 lap heat race. There's half the field in it, probably 10 cars. I guess Chris started in the back. The box in the bottom left is the another in-car camera pointing behind him, obviously. Chris doesn't have the luxury of seeing what's behind him. But he might know that where he's passing these cars, he doesn't really have to worry too much about them passing him back, because usually when he gets by somebody, he leaves them behind. Straightaways seem pretty short. I've got some mud on the lens. And that cage right in front of Chris, for people that don't know, is what they call a rock guard. In case flying rocks or mud comes up, it keeps it from hitting him in the face. And he wins a race. Just an awesome job. Here we are in the feature later that evening, 30 laps. He's starting 13th. So he's got to pass a lot of cars. 7th row. I'm sure the track has changed a little bit from this afternoon, so they know how to make those adjustments. It's part of what makes him so good, besides his driving. Now look at this. He's in between these two cars, skating. I would compare it to almost like roller derby on ice. We have skates and you're trying to control yourself, and it makes you appreciative of what a good driver he is, as a lot of these guys are, and girls, to be out there doing that. And this is green flags. You hear there's hardly any engine going. You say, well, I wonder if he's under yellow, but no, he's working his way through the traffic. And none of these drivers are hitting each other either. That's just amazing. They have about 600 horsepower, so it doesn't take long to get down the straightaways. And a good driver like Chris is working the wheel, but he's under control. I think that blue car on the left, number 8, is Kevin Chafee. I know I cover Bear Ridge, and I get the cars wrong a lot of times because it's so dusty up there, and some of them aren't easy to read anyway. But we're starting to learn who they are. Little roadblock in front of Chris, so he has to wait till they get single file a little bit. And it looks like he's in 4th or 5th now, up from 13th. The white 21 was Patrick Smith. That might be Dan Duvel behind Chris, the orange 7X. I'm sure he started in the back and is working his way up through also. Lap 20. Not as easy to pass these last 3 or 4 as it was to the first 4 or 5. That's the 73 right ahead of Chris, of Jake Williams. White flag, it's him and Jake. Can he get by Jake for the win? Here they come. And he did it. He won. Just beat Jake at the line. Last lap. So the winner was Chris Donnelly. Second, Jake Williams. Third, Kevin Chafee. Fourth, Dan Duvel. Fifth, the 61 of Will Hall. Sixth, Clay Dow. Seventh, Tim Martin. Eighth, Troy Como. Ninth, Luke Greenwood. And 10th was the young lady, Lacey Hanson. Good job for her. So that's our video from Bear Ridge. And we'll be up there this Saturday night. They are having the Dirt Midgets. And we hope to have a special guest on for next week who will be driving one of those Dirt Midgets. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.